Hi everybody, this is Zoe Burmester from Sugar Street Studios. I thought I would just show you a quick tip on how to put together some really quick wafer paper flowers, sort of fantasy roses that are useful for so many things. Here I've just made these very quickly that have gone into this Japanese Geisha bust cake, and it just adds a little pop of colour, but it's very quick. So I just thought I would show you today how we go about making these little guys. It's really simple, so let's get started. So to make the wafer paper flowers, you are going to need some wafer paper, some scissors. This is a 2-inch hole punch, so a hole punch is really useful. A circle cutter is what I mean by a hole punch. And then we're also going to colour them with some petal dusts, which we'll do shortly. But let's start with a slightly smaller flower. What I'm going to do is I'm going to punch out a load of these circles. I'm going to need, for one flower, I'm going to need 10. But what we need to do first is we need to wet these wafer paper circles. So we'll start with 4 complete ones. Wafer paper has a rough side and a smooth shiny side. So you want the shiny smooth side facing you. And then with a brush and a little bit of water, you just want to, without drenching it, just put a layer of water over the wafer paper, and you will see as I'm doing that immediately that the paper is going to begin to curl. It's really tempting to put a lot of water on these, but they will disintegrate on you, and we do need to leave these to dry. So the wetter you make it, the stickier and harder it's going to be, or longer it's going to take to dry. Then we're going to take another 4 circles. I'm just going to show you with one, and we're going to create cones. The way that we're going to do that is we're going to take some scissors and cut a slit halfway up the circle. Again, with a dab of water, we're just going to take one edge over to the other edge, pinch it together and create like a little sort of hat shape. A touch more water in there just to adhere that in. So you want 4 of these shallow cones. And then we're going to do exactly the same thing that we did before with the other circles. And we are going to brush them with a little water. Okay, so now you should have 4 round circles, 4 shallow cones that are all drying and curling as you speak. You want to take 2 more of your circles and cut them in half. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to create cones again, but this time we're going to go for a slightly tighter cone. So what you want to do is you want to curve this top curved part around your finger, is probably the easiest way. And then again, just using a tiny dab of water, glue that cone into position. And then in the same way as we did before, and you've got it, just going to brush this with water. So I'm just going to go ahead and repeat that 4 more times. And then actually we need an 11th circle. This is going to form the middle spiral of our fantasy rose. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to very gently fold it in half, but not quite in the middle. So I've got one side that's shorter than the other side. And again, I'm just going to brush a little bit of water, also because my paper's cracking slightly. So just by dampening it slightly, it's going to make it a little bit easier for me to bend. And then all I want to do is just very gently roll that up and just pinch that end together. So you want to start with your 4 whole circles that are hopefully now nice and curly, and what we want to do is we want to stack them on top of each other, alternating the curl. So I'm going to start with this one curling downwards, tiny dab of water in the middle, and I'm going to take another petal and just press that in on top. You see that? And I'm just going to repeat this by layering up the other petals. And then what we're going to do is we're going to layer up the cones in the same way, one by one. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to create that impression of the open petals slowly coming in around the bud. And then I've saved my sort of most curly one for the middle section. And finally, we're just going to arrange our central little coil that we made and these 4 little cones. But what we are going to have to do is just cut down the ends and make them a little shorter. Otherwise, they're just going to sit a little bit too proud. And what I'm going to do, whoops, little bits of wafer paper flying everywhere, is I'm going to put the coil in the middle and then sandwich the other ones around it. So I'm going to attach them in the same way with the water. So the next thing is to colour it. Now you could airbrush it lightly, but I'm going to use petal dust to colour these. And I'm going to colour them 2 ways. Now you could just dry dust over this and you'll end up with a much paler, softer effect. But if you want to go for a slightly more intense colour, the best thing to do is to paint it first before you dry dust it. I'm using this sort of quite rich pumpkin, to be precise. And I'm just going to mix that with a little bit of food grade alcohol or rejuvenator spirit. And I'm going to just mix that up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to very gently paint my flower. So I'm using quite a soft brush. The nice thing about this is you can actually create effects, so you can just paint the tips if you wanted to, but I want to paint the whole thing. Now you could say to me, well, this is possibly a slightly back to front way of doing it. Why don't you colour first? You can colour first. I found that the wafer paper was easier to manipulate as it was before I had treated it with any colour. And so that's why I'm doing it this way round. And then once it's dry, you want to go over with the dry powder, which is going to intensify that colour. And then just with your dry dust, you just want to go in and dust on top. And for the bigger, if you want to create a bigger flower, so for example, I've gone for a slightly bigger flower. I've gone with exactly the same principle as I've done before, but instead of just using the hole punch cutter to get a bigger leaf, I freehand cut my bigger circles. So I'll just show you, I cut some freeform petals, and in the same way you would stack them on top of each other like we did before, 4 of them. And then again, I made some flat cones and I arranged these more like petals. So rather than putting them straight in the middle, I would stick them around like this, and then again create my central bud and put that in the middle. And then the thing that's quite nice about something like this, you can see this is pre-coloured wafer paper. But let's go in and I'll just show you how we can do a 2-tone with the colour. But we can just go in and intensify the colour in the middle, like you would see on a flower. And then just use these dusts as a highlighter to catch those edges. You can see how that brings that to life. You can see you've got a couple of really pretty little flowers there without too much effort at all. And as I say, they are abstract and they are free form. No one's pretending that they are botanically or anatomically correct, but just for a little pop of colour and texture, remarkably quick and and pretty effective. As I say, I've used it in this geisha cake here just to put a little pop of easy, simple and quick colour into the whole composition of the cake. So I hope you've enjoyed that and look forward to seeing you all soon.